It all started with a whisper in the Formula One paddock. Not a typical rumor, but the kind of talk that makes engineers immediately lower their voices when a newcomer approaches. A technical issue that spread faster than the fastest lap time in Friday's free practice session. Amidst the seemingly calm atmosphere, Ferrari quietly turned their attention to Mercedes. But they weren't just observing their old rival. Ferrari was studying, researching, and likely preparing for something much bigger. Behind Formula One's massive regulation changes until the 2026 season, there was one small detail that had the potential to change the competitive landscape. The new regulations required all manufacturers to lower their engine compression ratios from 18.0 to 16.0. The FIA's goal was clear. Engines needed to be safer, cheaper to develop, and more welcoming to new manufacturers entering the sport. The regulations were designed to create a more balanced competition while fostering a more sustainable technological era. But Formula One history has consistently proven that performance isn't determined solely by the written rules, but also by how teams read the gaps between the words. And that's where the drama begins. The rules stipulate that the compression ratio must be measured when the engine is not at maximum operating temperature. A seemingly simple technical detail, it turns out to offer significant opportunities. Reports circulating over the winter indicated that two major manufacturers, believed to be Mercedes and Red Bull powertrains, had found a way to exploit this phrase to gain a performance advantage. In theory, their engines still met all FIA statistical tests and were completely legal. However, when the engines were running on the track, where temperatures rose dramatically due to the stress of racing, the compression ratio was expected to rise again to nearly 18.0. This figure was previously the standard for older generation engines and was known to produce significantly more power. The performance gains from this approach were not insignificant. It was estimated that gains of up to 0.3 of a second per lap could be achieved. In modern Formula One, such a difference could determine pole position, race victory, or even the world championship title. As soon as this rumor began to spread, a reaction was immediate from rivals. Audi, Honda, and Ferrari reportedly sent a joint letter to the FIA seeking clarification. They questioned whether the use of this space was still in line with the spirit of the regulations or whether it violated the principle of competitive fairness. Technical discussions began. The FIA has held workshops, power unit committee meetings, and various consultative forums between manufacturers. However, to date, the governing body has not made a firm decision. While some teams await certainty, Ferrari has chosen a different approach. According to a report by Italian journalist Leo Tuini, Ferrari's head of power unit division, Enrico Galtieri, has begun developing an engine concept for the 2027 season with an approach that specifically targets the dynamic compression ratio. This is not a panic reaction. It is a long-term strategy. Ferrari is no longer trying to plug this regulatory loophole. They are working on a technology that will allow them to exploit it in the same, if not more, effective way. The concept being developed is believed to be similar to the solution used by Mercedes. The technology involves the use of connecting rods made of a special material that has a high rate of expansion when exposed to extreme temperatures. When the engine is operating at racing temperatures, the connecting rods naturally elongate. This elongation indirectly restores the compression ratio, which had previously decreased due to thermal expansion in other engine components. What makes this technology so appealing is its simplicity. There are no active mechanical components, no hydraulic systems, and no additional electronics. Everything relies on the properties of the material and the laws of physics. This makes the technology difficult to challenge regulatory challenges because it technically doesn't violate existing rules. Ferrari's move demonstrates strong confidence that Mercedes' solution will likely be recognized by the FIA. Galtieri himself has maintained a calm demeanor when discussing the issue publicly. He stated that Ferrari is in constant discussion with the FIA and trusts the ongoing regulatory process. However, this calm doesn't seem to indicate any major preparations underway at Maranello. Time is crucial. The 2026 generation engine will be homologated on March 1st. Once the homologation process is complete, major changes to the engine design are virtually impossible. If the FIA decides to change the compression ratio measurement method, it could come too late for some teams. This situation reflects a classic pattern in Formula One that has been going on for decades. When one team finds a loophole in the regulations, others will protest. But in many cases, they end up trying to copy the solution. Mercedes boss Toto Wolff openly defended his team's engine project. He asserted that the Mercedes power unit was completely legal and complied with the written regulations. Wolff even criticized rivals for being too focused on finding fault with other teams before the season began. Tensions became even more apparent during the initial testing session in Barcelona. Ferrari logged 442 laps during the shakedown program, second only to Mercedes in total mileage. Looking at customer engines, Mercedes-powered cars logged 1,136 laps, while Ferrari and its customer teams clocked 992 laps. These figures demonstrate a high level of confidence in the reliability of both manufacturers. Ferrari also introduced an interesting technical approach by using steel cylinder heads instead of lighter aluminum ones. In theory, this decision adds weight to the engine. However, steel offers greater structural strength and resistance to extreme temperatures and pressures. Internal reports indicate that Ferrari was able to achieve unprecedented combustion pressures. This allows for a more efficient combustion process and greater energy output from every drop of fuel. If the dynamic compression ratio concept truly is the future of Formula One engines, Ferrari's decision to use steel could be a visionary move. In addition to the engine technology war, Formula One is also introducing the additional development opportunities ADO system for the 2026 season. This system is designed to maintain competitive balance. If a manufacturer lags behind in performance, the FIA can provide additional development opportunities during the season. Ferrari welcomes this system with optimism. Galtieri believes the mechanism has sufficiently clear regulatory definitions that it is difficult to manipulate. He believes the system will help maintain healthy competition. The 2026 regulation changes also bring a revolution in power unit composition. Engines will use a 50:50 combination of electric and internal combustion power. Furthermore, the fuel used must be fully sustainable. Ferrari believes the fuel changes will not fundamentally impact the engine's characteristics. According to them, what matters is the fuel's molecular structure and chemical properties, not simply the sustainability label. However, behind all these technical developments lies a very complex political dynamic. Changing the compression ratio measurement method requires the approval of 4 of the 5 engine manufacturers, plus the FIA and Formula One management. Currently, Audi, Ferrari, and Honda are in the same camp pushing for a rule review. A key position lies with Red Bull powertrains. Red Bull is reportedly exploring similar regulatory loopholes, although it is suspected that it won't benefit as much as Mercedes. If Red Bull decides to support the rule change, Mercedes could find itself in a difficult position. This situation is reminiscent of Mercedes' dual-axis steering in the 2020 season. The technology provided a significant advantage before being banned a year later. History shows that innovation in Formula One often walks a fine line between technical ingenuity and regulatory constraints. The big question now is no longer whether Ferrari is trying to copy Mercedes. They clearly are. The far more important question is whether Formula One will allow this innovation to develop, or whether it will stop it before it becomes the new standard. One thing is certain. The war over Formula One's next-generation engine technology has only just begun. And as usual, victory is not only determined by the speed of the car on the track, but also by the ingenuity of the engineers in reading the regulatory loopholes hidden behind each rule.